Welcome everyone to our We Got You Covered workshop. We're going to be talking about a fairly intimidating, but also once you get the hang of it, pretty easy task: writing cover letters and thank you notes. It's an important step. It's the things right after resumes, and it's the next step to getting you that interview. A quick introduction. My name is Andrew Lorelli. I am a career counselor in training coming from Cal Lutheran, working at the Career Center at Ventura College. On the call with us today is Dr. Gravel. She's essentially my boss, so she's going to be taking good notes, evaluating me afterwards. This is our team. We also have Barazmi. She works in our office as well. We are available through a virtual office Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. There is our phone number. There is our email. We are always here to support you. We have a number of links, including previous workshops. As you heard, we're going to be recording this one, and it will be available to you for review. We also like to make these slides available, so if there's anything that you feel you missed, that I talked too fast, or any questions that you weren't able to get addressed over the course of this workshop, you can always revisit it at your leisure. That said, let's dive right in and get a little philosophical. What is a cover letter? First and foremost, it is a personalized one-page sales pitch. It also functions as an introduction to an employer, and it should include an explanation of why you are sending that resume that you wrote earlier and how you heard about the position. You're going to link your skills, experience, and education to the requirements of the position, and you're going to focus on your interests in the organization and what you can contribute to the company. Big picture, it is a sales pitch explaining why you're here and why they should pick you out of everyone. The format is fairly straightforward. Your English class is going to come back in play. And they were talking about composition. That class was your friend because some of this should sound familiar. Cover letters typically are submitted as an email or an attachment as part of an online application. And when you're applying, you'll typically see you will apply online. So find the ad, fill out their form, and then you'll attach it as a supplement. You'll send cover letters, usually as a PDF. This isn't vital information, but we recommend PDFs because PDF documents you won't run into any kind of software issues. So for example, if you write on Microsoft Word or if you write on MacBooks Pages, sometimes there can be some formatting issues. And so if you don't know what they're operating on, and for example, you write in Pages and they can't open it, they're not going to contact you and say, hey, we couldn't get your cover letter. Would you mind sending in a format we're familiar with? They're just going to take you out of the running. Sayonara. And then in terms of formatting, you also want them to be personalized. And that's going to come up a lot. You're going to hear me say the word personalization and targeted a lot. And it's boring and redundant. And you're going to wonder, why is he saying it so much? Because it's important, friends. You're going to be targeting your cover letter to the particular organization and position. You're going to tailor it to make connections between your qualifications and the position requirements. And you're going to demonstrate knowledge about the organization and your passion for the industry. If you look up cover letter writing, if you just did like a very simple Google search and looked it up, you'll find templates. You'll find rules of cover letter writing. They're not exactly your friend. The thing that you always want to be doing is making it personalized. Don't write from templates. Don't try and recycle cover letters. Hiring managers who read cover letters, they're going to see that. They get an eye for it. All they do is read the same kind of applications always and over and over and over again. And if they start to see that, if they, for example, notice, oh, you just repurposed something from a different job, you will, again, they're not going to ask you to clarify. They're not going to follow up. You're out of the running, on to the next one. This is an incredibly important component, appropriately addressing your letter. I just read an article on the subject of cover letters, and one of the first thing that came up from a career hiring manager was there is no surefire expression that will make a hiring manager throw out an application like "to whom it may concern." And on the one hand, I understand why you would say "to whom it may concern." It's because you don't necessarily know who you're writing to. But here's the thing. In the year 2020, when you're writing to companies, this information is available. Sometimes you might be trying to find out, okay, I'm going to write to this particular organization. I can't find the exact person. You still have to make an effort, even if you get it wrong. Because sometimes some companies, they're human, they make mistakes. They will not update their personnel, even if you get it wrong. So for example, the hiring manager, it used to be Andrew, and now it's Debbie. Even if they made the change on their personnel side, but didn't update their website to reflect it, it still looks good on you to have written to Andrew, even if Andrew isn't the one working there anymore. It shows that you did the research. It's part of demonstrating your commitment to wanting to work there. So don't say "to whom it may concern," hiring manager, internship coordinator. And it's also important at the top of these kinds of letters to mention your connection. So for example, if you were referred by somebody, let them know, because now they're going to say, "Oh, hey, you know someone here, you know something about this company." So it speaks well of your interest. Some key tips, kind of getting back to formatting. 3 paragraphs long, 1 page. It's that word again, personalize the letter after dissecting the job or internship description. Select your key qualifications, relate them back, and then why this job at this organization? Why do you care? You don't just want a job at any old place, and they don't just want anyone. Why are you a good fit? Speak to that. And how are they going to benefit by having you? And sometimes, and I certainly made this mistake in the early days of cover letter writing, I would write about how it's going to benefit me to have that experience. And you think that like, and I understand how you fall into that trap, right? Because you're going to think that it's part of your professional development, and they are doing such a good service. It's such a humanitarian effort on their part to be bringing you on. Appreciate the thought, not the way to go. You're here to benefit them. Remind them why. And that kind of leads nicely into keeping in mind, why are you interested in the organization? Try not to explain why only this position is good for you, but how it benefits them. And in closing, you want to suggest that they contact you for in-person, well, it's not going to be in person for a while, friends, but you'll give them the means. Get right with the contact information. This is one of the most important pieces of information. And I point to this on every workshop I ever facilitate: proofread, proofread, proofread. The organizations you're going to be applying to are human. They make mistakes. They're looking for perfect candidates. So for example, if you say in your application that you're detail oriented and you have a typo, well, now they kind of got you in a lie, don't they? You have to come out perfect in these. This is one of those things you just can't make a mistake. So get all your theirs right, get your formatting right, make sure all the homophones are spelled correctly, make no mistakes. If that means turning this over to mom and dad for a second look, do it. If there's a close friend you trust, turn it over to them. Get that proofreading, get an editor, and just when you think you're done, check one more time. Here is a pretty rough guide for how you want to go. You begin with a narrative. Share your major or your degree, be it anticipated or not. Express your interest. Demonstrate an enthusiasm for the position. Share your experience. And this is where it gets nitty-gritty. Having good examples, specific, quantifiable examples. When I say quantifiable, I mean you did something at the job that you did something at a prior job or in your experience. You did something and it had an effect on the organization. Speak to that. Now is your time to brag. Do not be humble. Fight the instinct to be humble. You are here to convince the employer why they should have you. You also want to end by expressing gratitude, but a caution here. You don't want to be desperate. There is a temptation sometimes to end on this very big, thank you so much for considering me. It's been a lifelong dream. I want to do this so much. Don't do that. Express gratitude, but you'll stand out by being brief and polite. Hiring managers are reading these all day. This is somebody's job to read this. And so when you end on a purple prose and on it goes, kind of, thank you so much, it's off-putting. And a lot of people make that mistake. And so much of this exercise, so much of getting good at this is standing out from the crowd. Don't make that rookie mistake. Make the advanced move. Be grateful, but don't overdo it. That makes you stand out. Here is a little example for you all to look at. And I think the most important thing is how this conforms rather nicely to the advice I've been talking about. It's brief and it's to the point, although looking at it, there is one important mistake that's jumping out at me immediately. And I'm just going to throw it to the room. Who notices it? What is a problem here? Well, first problem is, dear hiring committee. Oof, so close. With that exception, I like this one. I think it's a pretty solid example. It does everything we talked about: connecting prior experience. It's tailored. It talks about accomplishments, and it's personalized. And there's also that component here about appropriately addressing it. You do want to pay attention to the actual address of the organization you're applying to. But they do make that mistake, dear hiring committee. That's one of those like, ooh, uh-oh. So keep in mind. Some things to remember. Each resume should be accompanied with a cover letter. Make sure that they are not vague, be specific, and be sure to tailor your cover letter to each job you're applying for. And what I mean by that point about resumes, your resume and your cover letter are linked documents. They should align more or less. So if you're speaking about accomplishments in a cover letter, you do want to make sure those same accomplishments are mentioned in your resume. And another component, if you're going up against a hiring committee, sometimes different hiring managers they'll have a preference. Some folks really they really start making their decision around the time of the interview, naturally. But some hiring managers they will be like, I think the cover letter is where folks really shine. Or some folks will say that the resume is what's really important to them. So never leave anything off the table. Excuse me, never leave anything on the table. That's the expression. Moving on. The next component, thank you notes. This one, friends, is an advanced move. I recommend it so much. It's exactly what you think. You just let the folks know how much you appreciated the meeting. You give something specific about the interview. This is why when you go into interviews, you want to be taking notes, not just for details about the job that you appreciate, but also just details that stood out to you. So if you make them laugh or they laughed at something, write that down. Keep in mind how you did that. If you feel like there's a connection, speak to that. You remind them why you're excited about this opportunity, a brief explanation of why you'd be a good fit for the job, and then provide the next steps for your contact information in a thank you note. It's just kind of part of a larger philosophy when you're interviewing and applying for jobs. You want to overwhelm them with information. You want to be giving them your number, your contact information. You want to leave an impression. You want to stand out. And like I said, you're overwhelming them with your contact information. If you manage to make this is possible. It can happen. Sometimes you can wow them with a cover letter. You can wow them with your resume. And then someone will say, wait, how do we get a hold of them? Again, organizations are made up of people and people are fallible. They can make a mistake. They can misplace your information. Oh, we lost all that contact information, but here's that very nice thank you note. Oh, hey, and there's their email. They'll get back to you. Here's a pretty neat example. This one's a little verbose, but it's helpful. You know, you can get a sense of, oh yeah, you know, this person did make a connection with that group. And an important tip that I don't have on the slide, but I recommend it to everybody in the run-up to the interview. When you are, for example, once you get to the point like you've got the interview scheduled and you know that you're going to be up against a committee, be sure to get the names of who you're going to be interviewing with. So sometimes you can, so that way you're not scrambling, and that way you can make personalized thank you notes for each person that you ended up speaking to. On the subject of references, if you attended our workshop about resumes, you may have noticed that we didn't talk about references then. References that's one of those things that's kind of changed in the last couple of years. You do want references, and it's good to have them ready to go ahead of time. So each resume should be accompanied with a cover letter. Friends. See, here's me being fallible. Here's something about references that's, it's titled references, but I don't have anything about references. How embarrassing for me. So I'll just speak to it. When it comes to references, 3 is usually a pretty good number to have ready to go. So one of the things that you can do is have them ready to go ahead of time and then provide them when they ask you. So when we do return to the world of in-person interviews, have your references ready to go on a printed piece of paper, and then you can just hand that off on your way out. I've had interviews where they said, "Ooh, can you just get back to us with that?" A better move is, no, here you go. And then you can send them. And that kind of goes back to our philosophy about overwhelming them with information. They have a physical copy, and they have a digital one. And here's a link to some additional resources. And when we make these slides available, you will be able to visit them later. And it's just some more examples about resumes and cover letters. Dr. Gravel, looks like you're trying to speak, but you are muted.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something about references. I've been seeing a lot more resumes where references are added on, and you don't want to do that on your resume. You could put references available upon request at the bottom. And then, like Andrew was saying, you can have your list of references available when you go into the interview when they ask for them, and you can give them to them, because that's the next step. Typically after an interview is they will ask for references at that point. But you definitely want to, when you're handing them the references, you want to be sure that you've notified all those people on your reference sheet that they may be getting a call checking your references. Really bad move to list a reference and not let the people know, and then they get a call and they don't really give you a great reference if they're getting a surprise on their end. So you want to be sure to have all your bases covered with that. So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I always like to end these with the sentiment that it's never really the end. Cover letter writing is a form of writing. You're never really done. You're going to keep doing it. And what it takes is practice. Practice does not make perfect friends. It merely makes better. You will find the more cover letters you write, the better you will get at it. It's not easy in the beginning, but once you do it enough, you will find yourself hitting a flow. That said, whenever you're up against those little road bumps and it's getting hard, we are here for you. This is one of those things that we are here to help you with specifically. So if, for example, you hit a roadblock, you don't know if you're doing this right, you need only visit the Career Center at our drop-in hours or schedule an appointment with us. The registration email that you got will, if you respond to that, gives you Dr. Gravel's email. You need only reach out to her, and then you get the chance to meet with us some more, and we will help you through this process. That's it for now. We do have some time left, so I would like to open it up to questions. And I will also, however, as folks start to file out, I will also be, we can also be sticking around just to field more personalized questions if you like. But
Andrew, I have a quick question.
Sure.
On how do you feel about maybe this isn't necessarily on cover letters, but on a resume, attaching a LinkedIn profile. Is that something to put on a resume or to refer for employers to find out more about you if you have a decent LinkedIn file? What's your thoughts on that?
I would think that a LinkedIn profile isn't necessary. Excuse me. If you have a well-maintained LinkedIn,
Mhm.
they're going to find it.
Okay.
Including a link on a resume, including a link, I don't necessarily think is a bad thing. The only time I would ever say it's bad is if it's costing you space on your resume. So for example, if you were trying to make a choice, do I want to include a detail that's relevant to the position?
Mhm.
Or the only thing that's keeping me from that is my LinkedIn link, nix it.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
I
it's cool because they can just search. Recruiters can find it easily. So
Exactly. They're gonna look you up on LinkedIn whether you have it on there or not. But I think Andrew makes a good point. Yeah, if you usually, I mean, rule of thumb with resumes is 1 page for 10 years of experience. So if you're running out of room and you want to keep it to 1 page, I would say no. But if you are just starting off in your career and you have room to put it like next to your email in the heading, I think that there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, and I did a resume because I'm changing careers. So um to should my resume to like be tailored to the new industry, or to keep it combined because they are related to each other. So I've actually made a combination resume that has all of my experience with a little bit of kind of both industries, the one I'm going into and my previous one.
the best thing you can do is connect the relevant experience. So long as it's relevant, that's fine.
Okay.
And I think too, a good rule, I like that you mentioned a combination. So when you do a combination resume, it's just listing your skills and experience, but not related to a specific job. And then it's just your work history at the bottom. And because you're trying to make that transition, yeah, you want to be able to show your just skills past or current that are going to relate to this next step in your career, and then just the work history at the bottom.
Okay, and that would be in the cover letter as well too, like more of the relevant quantitative experience or skill.
Exactly.
Transfer.
For sure.
Okay.
Showing that connection, even though maybe how you did something quantitatively that wasn't directly related to what you're trying to go into, but how it could transition into and how you could apply that to the next position.
Okay. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for asking those questions. Those were fantastic. And congratulations on making the leap into a new industry. Thank you for sharing that. Sound like another question to start.
It's a little scary, but I figure, you only live once.
We're all right in that boat with you right now. It sounded like there was another question opening up. Was that you? Let's see.
I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. And if there's anybody that still has questions, they can stay on the line.
Yeah. But yeah, no, we still have a little bit of time. So if there are any links